Thank you for downloading this podcast from the British Theatre Guide. For more information about British Theatre Guide, please visit britishtheatreguide.info.
Steve Orme here, the Midlands editor of the British Theatre Guide. The big main house production at Derby Theatre this Easter will be the swashbuckling tale Treasure Island. Teresa Heskins, who's the artistic director of the New Vic Theatre in Newcastle-under-Lyme, adapted the original by Robert Louis Stevenson a couple of years ago. All the performances at Derby Theatre will contain fully integrated British Sign Language and captioning. In a moment we'll hear from Beth Hinton-Lever, who's playing Long John Silver, and TJ Holmes, who's taking the role of Israel Hands. The theatre's artistic director Sarah Brigham will also bring us up to date on what the venue's doing in relation to the current situation surrounding coronavirus. But first, she explains she wanted to do Treasure Island because it's the classic quest adventure.
Our heroine, hero, goes out after something really precious and comes up against all of these challenges in the form of the pirates and, of course, Long John Silver. And I suppose it's an adventure story, certainly, that I, as a kid, loved. It's got pirates, it's got a bit of sword fighting, it's got treasure. Why not?
It was written by Teresa Heskins, the artistic director of the New Vic at Newcastle-under-Lyme. They did it a couple of years ago as a Christmas production, but obviously it's one that is suitable for any time of year.
Yeah, I didn't see that production, but I heard it was amazing. And when I was kind of looking for different adaptations, I picked up Teresa's, and what I loved about her adaptation was it's fast-paced. You know, it takes you through the story at a bit of a pace, which I think is good for family audiences. And yeah, it's that title that at Easter you can play as well as playing at Christmas. And this is now our second show that we've done at Easter with British Sign Language integrated as well. So I kind of thought, this is interesting.
Why is it important for Derby Theatre to do shows with British Sign Language and captioning?
So I think it's important for any theatre because obviously it's a whole part of the population who needs to see theatre and wants to see theatre, but not just on one night of the week when there happens to be an interpreter stood at the side dressed in black interpreting. You know, they want, like we all do, we want to see theatre that is accessible for you and that it makes it understandable for you. But especially for Derby, it is said that Derby has the largest deaf population outside of London, and we have a real close relationship with the Royal School for the Deaf, and also we now run our own deaf-friendly youth theatre as well. So it seems like the perfect, thing for us to be doing, the right thing for us to be doing. And last year when we did the Jungle Book, a lot of our hearing audiences commented that actually they really enjoyed it because the sign language gives like almost another, even if you don't understand it, it gives another physical language to the landscape, and it's just really kind of engaging to watch.
You mentioned pirates. I think when people traditionally think about Treasure Island, they think of Long John Silver hopping about on one leg and pirates going ooh-ah all the time. So how much of that is there in your version?
There's a bit of ooh-ah. There is a bit of that. So for me, Long John Silver's perhaps one of the most iconic disabled roles. And I think that it was really important that we cast an actor who's disabled. And in Beth Hinton-Lever, what we found was this incredibly talented woman. And so she seemed like the right person to cast. I think it's really important that disabled actors play disabled parts in the same way that, black actors play black parts. And so it was really important for me that I found someone who could play that truthfully, but also who was a brilliant actor. And I think that's what we found.
And is it gender fluid generally, this production?
When Teresa first wrote it, she'd already made the decision to make Jim Jem. And why not? It's a way of accessing for young girls a story that is traditionally seen as a boy's tale. And it doesn't really matter whether our hero is a hero or a heroine. But in the research, what we found was that there was actually lots of female pirates and that they would pass as male. So they would pretend to be male. And in some respects, they were even more terrifying in those days to the kind of locale. And Beth knows all the pirate background, so she can tell you about the female pirates. So actually, and in the traditional story, Jim and Long John Silver, at the very start of the story, they have this almost like father-son relationship. Jim really trusts Long John Silver. And it's that moment when he finds out it's a pirate, is like, oh my goodness. And again, as a child, I remember that moment in the book is like, but Long John Silver was like the great person. And so because Teresa had already made the decision to turn Jim to Jem, it seemed natural to me then that Long John Silver should be female to mirror that relationship that's in the book. And then after that, when I started doing my research and finding that there are that female pirates did indeed exist, absolutely, but they would pass as a man, they would pretend to be a man, I was like, well, that's what we're going to do then.
What sort of age range will this production appeal to, do you think?
When you put an age range on a show, it's almost a little bit exclusionary. I think a family has to make that choice. I guess some of the language is quite complex because of the piratiness, but there's no nudity or swearing. So for me, I think it's probably kind of, 5, 6, 7 plus. But I do think it is also for like the grandparents. And I know that my dad, who's, in his 70s, is very excited about coming to see it because it's one of his absolute favourite tales.
Beth, you're playing Long John Silver. Were you surprised, excited to get that part?
I was over the moon, but also very surprised. I think I've grown up with the novel, so I've known Long John Silver as a character and nearly as a person, I feel, for my entire memory, pretty much. So to get the audition notice through that Darby and Sarah were doing Treasure Island was already exciting enough, and then to get the chance to audition for Long John Silver was huge for me, not only because of the character, just because of the weight that character holds. So it was just very exciting, and I went in and met the team and kind of immediately fell in love with the entire premise, knowing that, as Sarah mentioned, this maternal kind of instinct was going to be nurtured. And not only that, but as a disabled actor, I will be playing a role who is disabled, famously, and it's, I wouldn't say the first time, but it must surely be one of the first times where this role has been played by a disabled actor. So to kind of get that mantle and be able to, with Sarah and the rest of the team, be able to create my own version and our version of this iconic pirate has been a dream. It's been so exciting.
So what are the challenges of playing the part?
I think it's a double-edged sword. As much as Long John Silver is incredible and such a joy to play, the weight of, I guess, the infamy of Long John Silver does sit on me a little bit. I've found myself talking myself into holes, knowing how I think other people will view Long John Silver. And Sarah has been brilliant at digging me out of them and reminding me that I have to play this truthfully for who I am and me, not for how I think an audience will view me and this character. So that's been a challenge for me, but it's been a good challenge and one that I'm very proud to have attacked, and I hope I'm getting close to the other side now.
It's a well-known saying that baddies get all the best parts, so is that the case here?
One thing I love about our Treasure Island is the ensemble attitude and feel towards the show. When the casting came out, and I remember the line, Beth Hinton-Lever leads the cast, and that terrified me. Because it's a big, scary thing to read that and your own name. And getting into the room, from day one, it was clear that all 12 of us, and then on top of that, the community ensemble, who are incredible, are all working together at all times. So that has taken any of the stress away from me of, oh no, this is all going to be on me, and if I'm bad, the entire show will be bad. It's nothing like that. It's this beautiful interwoven with language and music and play piece of theatre that involves absolutely everyone, and hopefully the audience will also be involved and feel that kind of spirit and community work, I think.
I think a lot of the audience might be asking, though, do you have a parrot?
I do have a parrot. I was overjoyed when I found out I had a parrot. His name is Captain Flint, and he is beautiful and an incredible puppet. And I think he might steal the show. Put it out there.
Now, you're no stranger to gender-swapped roles. You played Jaques in As You Like It at the Queen's Theatre in Hornchurch. So how was that experience?
I actually have compared Treasure Island to As You Like It, which was the National Theatre's public act scheme that I did in summer 2019, with Treasure Island quite frequently because of the nature of the work. I think the community-based heart that leads in both of these shows has become so important to me and my craft. I now can't imagine doing a show that didn't have that focus, because if you're not making theatre for the people that are going to see it, why are you doing it? And I think one way to really integrate that into the work is to have them on stage with you, because you can feel when something doesn't work. You can tell by the expression or the laughter when it's not hitting. So it's just been incredible. And the chance to play these two roles, Long John Silver and Jaques, who have been, I've always loved these roles, and I never thought as a disabled female actor I would ever get to play them. So the chance to have my hand, as it were, at them has been incredible, and I'm very lucky and very excited.
As a disabled person, do you find that there are more opportunities nowadays for disabled actors in mainstream theatre, or do you think there's still a lot to be done?
I think that's a very hard question to have an answer to. In many respects, the forerunners before me laid the groundwork for me to be where I am, and I have to give all the praise and credit to them for fighting as hard as they have and still continue to, for people like me to be where I am. But I'm also now having that, fight. I guess it is a fight, and I can say that. So we're in a much more inclusive place. We are by no means there, and we are by no means done. And that's not a negative. I mean, it's not a positive either. It's just the facts of where we're at. And I'm very lucky to be in the position I am, and I'm also aware of how I have to present myself and how the characters I play, I don't really like playing victims that much, and if I do, I try and make sure it isn't about my disability, and if it is, playing that truthfully and not hamming it up, as it were, just letting it lie. And if an audience takes something one way, that's kind of a mirror to society, but I've gone a very roundabout way because there's not a way I can say yes or no to this, I think, but we are in a much better place, and I'm beyond grateful and happy for that. But I do think we have a way to go.
So what's next for you after Treasure Island?
I'm very lucky, actually, and I'm going on to a research and development project for a show called Lesbian Pirates. So I'm staying in the pirate theme, which is, as Sarah has mentioned, about female pirates who pass as male pirates. And it's a musical theatre piece, incredible music and story, and it's very funny, and it's quite risky and adult, I guess I can say. But yeah, that's next for me. And then after that, the world's my oyster, I guess.
Presumably you've done your research on pirates then and discovered that a lot of females passed as male so that they could become pirates.
Yes. There's a lot of reasons why women would end up on pirate ships, as it were. And I think the research I've done has been mainly into these two female pirates called Anne Bonny and Mary Read. And they were mentioned in kind of the Book of Pirates, which is how they've become so famous. And their kind of love affair together. But the fact that to be on a pirate ship, being a female would have been exceedingly dangerous, so they would have to pass as men. And yeah, it's been, I think growing up, the age I am, pirates have always been this incredible action, fantasy, adventure, and then to, at the age I am, really do my research and realise quite how dire the situations they found themselves in, but also how democratic they were. Pirates are just surprising. At every turn, pirates have always surprised me, and that's one thing I love about being able to play Long John Silver. I get to surprise people in the way that pirates always have, and I think our version, all our pirates, everyone on stage, we are not doing the version you think you're going to see, and that's what makes us surprising, and that's what makes us exciting.
TJ, you're back at Derby Theatre. Last time you were in One Man, Two Governors. I think that was quite a physical role for you, wasn't it?
It was, yes. I was playing octogenarian waiter Alfie, who ends up being the butt of a lot of the sort of physical slapstick of the show. So I was last seen, falling backwards downstairs and getting smashed in the face by a door and all that sort of thing. It was great.
I remember that. It seemed as though you came up with innumerable ways of how to fall downstairs. It must have taken you a lot to practice that.
Well, thank you. Yes, variety's the spice of life. What can I say? But we had a wonderful sort of fight movement director, Ian Stapleton, isn't it? Yeah, who was brilliant to work with, and had a lot of fun getting it all on its feet and off them again.
So, what sort of place is Derby Theatre? What's it like to work here?
Well, it's a very, very vibrant place to be working in, and you really get a sense of its connection with the community. The work has real open-heartedness to it. It's very accessible. And more than that, actually, this particular show, as with the Jungle Book last year, has quite a large community ensemble who are working with us. And they're really bringing an awful lot to the show. They play everything from, well, and some of them are quite little as well. They play people in the pub. They play ghosts. They play pirates. So you can imagine how much relish there is for them to be involved with this, and it really is infectious. You know, it's kind of their enthusiasm has really kind of inspired the company. So they do bring a lot, and of course the fact that with such a large deaf community in Derby, that the access of the show is so much at its heart. I think that, again, kind of really engages it with the community. And all of that side of thing really adds, as Sarah was saying, a layer for the sort of non-deaf audience members as well. Things like dance moves, instead of them being sort of abstract waving of hands around in the air, suddenly actually those moves have a real meaning. They're part of the telling of the story. So I think it works on all sorts of levels, really.
And what's your particular role in the production?
I'm playing Israel Hands, who is an awful pirate. He's, awful on, I suppose, two levels. He's a very disreputable person, a real bad one, but he's also a bit of a loser. Yes, he talks about having lost his fortune twice, and he comes to a very sticky end, which I'm sure everyone will be delighted about, because we don't like to see villains prosper, do we? So no, I won't say any more. No spoilers here, but he's great fun. And my hometown is Penzance. You probably can't tell from my accent, but I do wheel out a bit of the West Country for this one. So yeah, the Pirates of Penzance are here in Derby.
It sounds as though the whole thing is based on fun. Would you agree with that?
I would. I think it's going to be a show that is a lot of fun for audience members of all ages, as Sarah said. But I think it's also shot through with a lot of good heart. And we see the heroine, the young protagonist of the piece, really sort of going through quite a difficult journey. So it doesn't shy away from playing the real sort of tensions and the jeopardy that I think will make the piece really exciting for audiences.
And what have you got lined up afterwards? Anything?
Well, nothing sort of firm yet. However, I'm very lucky in that when I'm not doing theatre acting work, I do work with a company called Past Pleasures who do costumed historical interpretation. So at various sites, the Tower of London, Hampton Court Palace, and actually I know that I am going to be doing some days down at Dover as part of the 80th anniversary of Operation Dynamo, which will all be happening in the World War II tunnels down there. So it's work that I really relish. It has a bit of kind of intellectual rigour to it. You have to do your historical research and the performance element too. Great bunch of people. So I'll be getting back to a bit of that.
Finally, Sarah, must ask you about coronavirus. Mm-hmm. What sort of precautions is the theatre taking on that score?
Yeah, so we've got a whole risk management group that look at issues like this all the time. And we're following public health guidance. We're in conversation with both Public Health England and with UK theatres who are sending us information all the time. As well, of course, we're very lucky that we're part of the university, so there's all of that added support, I suppose. And I think, the government guidelines at the moment are not to panic, that we're in for the long haul. There might be a time in the future when theatres are closed, but at the moment that's not looking likely, certainly in the short term. So it's business as usual, but there's really strict kind of information that's gone out to both staff and customers about, the same information that's gone out for everyone. Be sensible, if you're showing symptoms or whatever, or if you've been to one of the Category 1 countries, then don't come into the theatre. But at the moment it is we're continuing, and we're dealing with things almost on a daily basis. We're getting updates every day and kind of checking in with the risk management group every day.
Various things are being postponed now, football matches, all sorts of outdoor entertainments. Mm-hmm. Are you concerned that it may affect theatre in this country?
I think certainly UK theatre in conversation with government about that. So what's happening in Germany at the moment is that venues that are over 500 are being asked to limit capacity. And, you know, for us, what's the most important thing is that we keep our customers and our staff safe. So we'll follow the guidelines as we're given that. But I do think that UK theatre are having a conversation. You know, there will be implications right across the board if things are cancelled and closed. But, you know, first and foremost, people's health is the most important thing, and the other implications we'll deal with as and when they arise.
Sarah Brigham, the Chief Executive and Artistic Director of Derby Theatre. Treasure Island is scheduled to run from the 28th of March until the 11th of April.
You've been listening to a podcast from British Theatre Guide. For more information, please visit britishtheatreguide.info.